Pay me, pay me, pay me my silver now. Pay me or go to jail. Pay me my silver
Good morning,
now.
Bix Weir, roadtour.com. We're sitting on the edge of the precipice, the edge of the end of the world, the edge of everything falling apart. Even like all the stock analysts are saying, why are these valuations so big? What's going on? All gets back to the road to Ruta theory. There are people behind the scenes that can control the entire system with a click of a mouse. All it takes. Greenspan wrote a book in 2018 that I hadn't read. I did a lot of research on Alan Greenspan, his early days as the world's best computer programmer in the 1960s, invented the current monetary system, the electronic banking system. He invented it, blamed himself for Y2K. Most people don't know he's a computer expert. And imagine being a computer expert back in the 1960s and 70s when nobody was playing with computers. Him and his best friend from high school, John Kimmeny, the guy who invented Basic Computer, were playing around with it in the 1960s. And Greenspan very early on understood just how powerful this thing is. Worked with Arthur Burns, the head of the Federal Reserve System. Imagine you're just a kid, the head of the Fed is your mentor. That's just crazy stuff. So yeah, it was Alan Greenspan's computer programs that helped America stay off a gold standard all the way up to 1980, and then gold started to run. Paul Volcker took over, and he says he didn't rig the gold market, but of course he did. We know he did. And he had to raise interest rates to 20%, which Janet Yellen would never do, by the way. It's easier just to lie about the inflation rate. The inflation rate's probably about 20% right now. That's how much you're losing every year in purchasing power of the dollar. The question of whether the dollar will collapse against what? I mean, I would say if gold and silver go to $10,000, $20,000, that's a dollar collapse. Gold and silver didn't change. The value of the gold and silver vis-a-vis the dollar did. No, the U.S. dollar will never collapse in relative to other currencies because they're all doing the same thing. They're printing as much money as possible, soaking up all the benefits of free money. China and America, everywhere, they're building houses and roads and bridges and pretending this is real. But that was always the plan. That's what Ruta wrote in the sand in the original Road to Ruta comic books out of the Fed. She wrote an economic formula called On the Road to the Golden Age. It was written in the 1960s. It didn't win a Nobel Prize, but the guy who invented this program, or this, it was a research paper on how to get back to a gold standard, ended up being on the board of people who decide who gets the Nobel Prize. Even bigger. And it was on the road to the gold. Yes, everything's related to a road. It goes back to the 1960s. The road to freedom, the road to serfdom, all that stuff. Big ways to think. I believe the road to Ruta, Root A is a computer programming term in Fortran, I believe it is, that Alan Greenspan used to write the first commercial banking programs and implemented it during the 70s, 80s. It really kicked off. And then all the other banksters got into the computer programming, computer trading of assets, although the Fed controlled the biggest computer trading arm in the world because they invented it. Alan Greenspan and John Kimmeny did the basic. But John Kimmeny pretty much stayed out of the market rigging. He knew he could make $1 zillion, but he stayed out. He stayed in the teaching profession. He was so smart. He was the mathematician for Albert Einstein. John Kimmeny, look him up. So that's how we kind of got to today. And then all the big commercial banks learned about computer rigging of computer trading, shall we call them. Trillions of transactions per second, bullshit like that. That's what Reggie Middleton's software is going to be able to fix after the system crashes. All of a sudden, everybody won't hate Reggie. It's embarrassing how many people, both on the banking side, obviously they hate Reggie. They told the SEC to take Reggie down, but also on the crypto side, everybody hates Reggie. Not everybody, but most people, because he was smart enough to patent the idea of peer-to-peer capital markets back in 2014, the first patent on this stuff, and it was granted not too long ago. Now you might say, well, no, cryptos are decentralized and patents don't matter. That's true. That's true. If they truly are decentralized, patents wouldn't matter. So why are you crying about patents? Because they're not all cryptos are decentralized. Most of them are not. Decentralized meaning there's no one to go after. Right? If Bitcoin doesn't infringe on his patent, but if it did, who would he go after? Who would Reggie go after if Bitcoin infringed on its patent? There is no Bitcoin company. You might say the core developers, but they really had nothing to do with the origination of Bitcoin, and they can't shut it down. The core developers cannot shut down Bitcoin. Anyway, so I'm reading his book, and it talks a lot about creative destruction, which I have just talked about recently, about why Theta isn't just absolutely exploding and instantly becoming the most powerful crypto on the whole coin market cap chart. Because of the nature of what it is, it would instantly creatively destruct the entire infrastructure of things like broadband. We don't need to spend trillions of dollars on broadband. We can implement as a download on every smart TV on the planet, not everyone, but most of them made in the last 10 years, and run a Theta Edge node sharing Wi-Fi, sharing the internet. People would earn Theta fuel, and voila, you solved a multi-trillion-dollar problem of how do we expand broadband. Mainly the broadband congestion is the last mile problem, is what they call it. It's like, how do you get in a city to all these people, all the data, all the streaming movies and all that? Right now they use content delivery networks. That's what originally Theta was built for. Free and easy, not free, but much cheaper than the way people are doing it. They quickly learned that it's very hard to get big corporations who have this infrastructure and years of investment in this to switch over to something that's easier. One, it would tell them your job's pretty much irrelevant. You screwed up. You spent $10 billion on this network, and now you can do it with a download. But that's a creative destruction event. It would destroy things like the Google Cloud, and because you'll have Edge Cloud. You have all this stuff that Theta can do, and it's one of those things that's too good to be true because all the companies are going to fight it, and the companies are the partners of Theta. Google is a partner of Theta. They have been for a long time. Same with Samsung and Sony. They like what Theta's bringing to the metaverse and to Web 3.0 and all that, and they're working with them on that. But on the old stuff, they have entrenched interests in that. So they don't want that to happen. So Sony doesn't, Samsung and Sony might not want to download a Edge node on every TV and run it in the background while people are watching movies and streaming movies. Maybe. Ultimately, they're going to lose anybody, and history has proven this, anybody who tries to stop progress, especially in technology, ends up losing their position. Other companies leapfrog it, and all of a sudden we won't need broadband expansion, or they'll invent something new and different. So, yeah, I think it's a mistake. I think on the part of the big guys, Google, Samsung, Sony, all of them, anybody who's holding back the full implementation of Theta and the Theta Edge nodes. But again, this can happen in a blink of an eye. I had seen the original remote viewing of Theta with Hitomi, amazing remote viewer, and she had an inkling that they knew what was coming. They knew this massive catastrophe was going to hit the world, and they had prepared for that. And I think what she said is afterwards, after that happens, bang, here's your solution. If broadband goes down all over the world and nobody has the trillions of dollars to to expand it like it needs to be expanded, that's when it really Theta really shines and kicks into high gear, because most likely Apple computer will download it. Every laptop will come with a Theta Edge node. It's a software download, mind you. So every computer on the planet can be sharing their broadband right now, and earning T-Field to do that. So yes, it is a big deal. It's one of those too big of a deals that, how much money does Amazon and Google make on the cloud? A hell of a lot. And that's what Theta can creatively destruct, things like that. So very interesting. It's still my number one holding. I know it's coming, but it might be after the collapse of everything. There'll be a lot of changes. Silver will obviously be the number one thing to hold during the crash. But we all know that JP Morgan's back in the silver trading business, so don't expect anything too exciting too soon. They're playing with today is Tuesday, so the last reporting day for the Commitment of Traders report, which comes out on Friday. So I would suspect that I think it shuts off at 10 or 11 o'clock West Coast time, trading on the COMEX. I don't remember. 1 o'clock, maybe not, maybe 4. But then I do think next week, or the remainder of this week after today, we should see another attempt to blow by the moving averages. Or maybe not, or they click a mouse and set the price to 0. That's how much I care about price. I did make a final Silver Eagle purchase. Why do I say final? Because I think the U.S. Mint, as they usually do, will shut down in December. Now, if you have silver starting to run and the U.S. Mint is shutting down for their annual Christmas party, well, it's not the Christmas party. What they do is they claim we have to make the 2024 coins. So the January numbers are always numbers for January and December of the year prior. I don't see any reason why they should shut down. It's not hard to make that switch over. The demand is there for the 2023 product. They're sold out now, according to what I hear from the authorized distributors. They're still on allocation. That means 2023 is completely sold out. There's no reason to shut down in December. And a while back, they were going into November as well. So if Ventures Gibson comes out and says, okay, we've shut down in mid-November, as we always do, it's normal. I don't know if they'll ever open up. There's some massive announcements coming that will greatly affect the price of silver. Not to mention, what if a war breaks out? War has already broken out. The question is, when will the bad guys drag the United States of America in, and Russia and China and everybody? Or will cooler heads prevail? I hope the lobbing of nukes doesn't happen, but it's not like a 0% chance anymore. I would say probably 10% chance. But who knows? We're in an odd place. We're trying to break free of the Khazarian mafia and the criminals that have run our lives. They can do a lot. We've seen that in Hawaii. We've seen it on 9/11. We've seen it all over the place. What can they do? Almost anything. Cliff's been talking about shungite. I got my shungite necklace on right here. To help with the tougher things to protect your head and your mind around, and even your soul. They do have technology that can make you think different things and strange things. And I'd like to think that all of California is currently not believing any of the hype because of what the bad guys are blasting through the air. But I don't know that. And it takes a lot for people, especially in groups in California, that all agreed that Trump was a bad guy, he's a horrible human. It would take a lot for them to change their mind. I think something as shocking as busting all the pedophile rings and what Trump actually did when he was president, actually coming out in the open, it might take that. But I still know people in California who would still say it's an issue of them declaring themselves wrong on such an important issue. the vaccines and all that stuff that the left wholeheartedly believed in. I don't think they have the strength and the openness of mind to ever admit that they did something wrong, that something was wrong, that they believed in wholeheartedly and fought against. Especially doctors. Can you imagine the liability of forcing everybody to get the jab and then admitting, yeah, we should have done that? So it's going to take a lot, but I think there's a lot to be revealed. What Trump had to go through, what he was trying to do when he was president, was take down our controllers, these evil millions of them, literally. I do think the military is in control of the United States right now, and I don't think it's Biden. I was there when Biden was sworn in 5 minutes before noon, which is unconstitutional as well. There's just so many things that don't make sense unless you say, it's all a show. And behind the scenes, we've got a real return to our Constitution. That's all we need to do. The U.S. is lucky in this sense. When the banks crash and you lose everything, we have something to turn to in our Constitution. If they try to implement a CBDC and all that, they probably will. And who's going to believe it? I think everybody would reject it instantly. But will Congress even be up and running at that point in time? I don't know. I was listening to some retired general say it's going to be 3 weeks of a banking collapse before their banks open again. And I'm like, that's enough time for chaos to take hold. And then Cliff's talking about, years, maybe even decades to recover. I do believe that, but I'd rather be in recovery mode than still being held prisoner and captive in the system we're in right now. Hope that makes sense. So yes, if you're looking to buy Eagles, I don't know if they're going to make the 2024 Eagles. So I would get them while you can. Maybe they will. But, from everything I'm looking at, something's about to hiccup very largely. So yeah, I'm not going to wait until the banks collapse to buy Eagles because they won't be for sale. The banks collapse and pretty much you're done. It's over. Until they reallocate money, which I do believe the United States have massive amounts of gold and a little bit of silver to use as money. That was in the Road to Ruta documents that came out of the Fed. So we will see. Hang on tight. Really interesting stuff. Yesterday I touched on it, but the whole idea of J.P. Morgan Chase now being added to the standing repo facility counterparty pool is shocking. Not that, that them being in that pool of companies that are, dealing in the repo world, but the fact that they weren't in there. I didn't know they weren't in there. All the big banks are in there. But then I remembered that J.P. Morgan Chase was the entity that caused the spike of the rates to run to 10% on overnight money. That was Jamie Dimon's doing. They were trying to take Trump out in September of 2019 before the election. I hope everybody understands that. So right after that happened, Trump nailed them with RICO charges on rigging the gold and silver markets, and voila, Trump won that bet. and Jamie Dimon had to, be exposed. Jeffrey Christian was shown as a liar. All that stuff. If you don't know that, there's a couple great research papers on it. J.P. Morgan caused the repo market stress so the bank can buy back shares. No, it wasn't so they can buy back shares. It was so that the economic system was on its knees by the time the election came. That's how you win an election. You destroy the monetary system. And if people are worse off, they're not going to elect you. So that's what Jamie Dimon did. And it's all of it's right here. For example, this chart right here shows back in September 2019, JP Morgan revoked 130 billion of reserves cash from its balance sheet, tightening overnight cash available to borrowers in the repo market. They basically pulled everything out of the repo market. It's right here in this chart. That's why it spiked to 10%. This led to overnight spike to 10% at its highest level in decades. And that was 100% Jamie Dimon trying to rig the election. And Trump just put the hammer down that asshole. They need to take Dimon and J.P. Morgan out. The whole board of J.P. Morgan was involved in Epstein, along with Jamie himself. Jamie Dimon, the girls who got abused, used to call him instead of Jamie Dimon. Because he was not just a financier. He was a participant. The current repo market's over $1 trillion. This is the bailout, one of the bailout slush funds from the Fed. There's so many of them. So hang on. Big news. WeWork files bankruptcy. Roiling already stressed commercial real estate market. Yeah, WeWork was that woke, ridiculous company that, everybody's going to share office space. Kumbaya, we're going to have parties every weekend. Jamie Dimon bought into this hook, line, and sinker. They not only invested in the company, they invested in the dude who was running it. This very much a Sam Bankman-Fried type of guy. WeWork is a mess for J.P. Morgan. Jamie Dimon is cleaning it up. This is back in 2019, so I'm sure he's played with derivatives, and this filing for bankruptcy probably won't hurt J.P. Morgan, because as long as the third-party derivative holders live up to what they promised. When you buy a derivative, the company that holds the derivative, meaning the company or the guarantees whatever the derivative is for. In this case, it would be WeWork credit derivative, credit default swaps, and things like that. The money is paid to. This is why the banker loves them. The money is for the transaction is paid up front for the derivative, and then only if it is triggered do the people who are on the holding the credit for WeWork get the money. So the question is, does the counterparty have the money to help Jamie Dimon and friends offset the losses they're going to take, or they just took in WeWork? And does this have anything to do with this happening? Yesterday, J.P. Morgan was thrown back into the repo market. The same entity that busted it in 2019 is now back in there. Why are they back in there? What's going on? And then a day later, we find out WeWork files for bankruptcy, which is one of the massive, who knows what was really going on between WeWork and J.P. Morgan. It's very similar to what was going on with Epstein, what's going on with Bernie Madoff. So, yeah, Sam Bankman-Fried, who knows what that, freak. I think he was found guilty. He can serve up to 100 years. Just the reality of Sam Bankman-Fried is he was a Ponzi. He was a patsy, just like the guy who killed Kennedy. He should have set up. I'm a patsy. My parents put me up to this. My parents are the deep staters. Look into it. Oh my God, of course they are. They're huge anti-Trumpers. The dad, Sam Bankman-Fried's dad, is he was like pushing the legal prosecution of Trump for breathing, basically. Had a radio podcast at Stanford, and the mom funnels all illicit funds into the Democratic Party. Sam Bankman-Fried has little to do with any of this. It's the deep state, the pedo cabal, all that. Anyway, that's where we are. So we'll see what J.P. Morgan, if they make an announcement, they'll probably say, yeah, we took care of it all with derivatives already. So I don't think that will affect Jamie Dimon. Although the commercial real estate market really cannot handle anything to go wrong, and this is massive. I think this is the largest commercial real estate owner as far as leases. I think it was, let's find out how big these guys are. They're currently leasing 20 million square feet of prime office space. 20 million square feet. More than any other company in the United States. Good luck, commercial real estate investors, but literally, where are mortgage-backed securities located? At the banks. So how many banks are going to go down because of this? A lot. Even if they didn't invest in WeWork, all their commercial real estate loans are going to take a massive hit. Commercial real estate's not going to come back, by the way. These big cities like San Francisco that are just almost empty, it's not going to come back. Just keep that in mind. All right, that's what I got for you. Lots going on. Again, I made my final Silver Eagle purchase, I believe, maybe forever, maybe not, but I think they'll start. I think they'll stop making Silver Eagles by December for the 2023 because they've done it every year in the past. But at the same time, for you private road members, you know what's coming. You know what announcement's coming. And that probably would be the beginning of, kind of near the beginning of December, or maybe even when it's implemented on January 1st. So we want more about that. Go to the private road at roadtoruta.com. Click on subscribe today if you are not a member, and check it out. We give you this coolest silver coin ever made, the Ruta Lives coin, for a 1-year subscription or renewal on the Road to Ruta. That's what I got for you. This is Bix. I'll talk to you later.